Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going through a series of video presentations for the Rankin Technical College AWD Application and Web Development 1111.NET Framework with Web Databases class. Our textbook is ASP.NET MVC with Entity Framework and CSS by Naylor, and I am working my way through Chapter 6 of 18. As it says, the current file upload system works well, but users are only allowed to upload one image at a time. And that may really slow things down. So, we want to set it up so that you're able to upload 10 images at a time. In order to do this, as the author says, we need to modify the upload method so that it can handle more than one parameter. It says the code is more complex than the previous code in the book. So what the author does is tries to explain what's going on here on page 122 before he makes the changes on pages 123, 122, 123, 124, 125, 126, 127, and 128, and 129. All right, so a user must enter at least one file, but not more than 10. Okay? All files must be valid, so they must meet the criteria that we came up with before. In other words, they have to be between 0 meg and 2 meg, and they must be GIF, PNGs, or JPEGs. If any of the files are not valid, then none of them are uploaded. So in other words, this is looked at in the same realm as a database transaction, where with a database, let's say that you've got 3 inserts, 2 updates, and 4 deletes. If any one of those fails, they all fail. And we're doing the same type of thing right here. If all the files are valid, then each one is saved to disk. If there is a problem saving any file, an error is thrown and the user is asked to try again. The code will simply overwrite any existing files and does not attempt to remove files if they've already been saved. They're just overwritten when the user tries again. If the files are valid and all uploaded okay, then the system will now attempt to save every name to the database. If any of the files are duplicates, in other words, if they already exist in the database, they will not be added, and an error message will be displayed listing the name of each duplicate. All the other non-duplicate files will be saved to the database. The author says that he is making the code work this way to demonstrate how to manipulate the data store in a database context object. All right, finally, if an error is thrown, the upload view is returned, otherwise the index is returned. In the case where some files are not uploaded due to being duplicates, the upload view is returned with an indication in the error message that any files that are not duplicates were uploaded. All right. In order to allow multiple file uploads, we're going to have to modify the HTTP post version of the upload method once again. To start, clear out the contents of the method and then update the input parameter. So the HTTP post upload, clear out everything. Okay. There's our product images controller. This was that upload method. And the author is saying get rid of all of it. So that's what I'm going to do. All right. Now we're changing it from this, from file, to make it an array. Why? Because again, what we want to do is we want to be able to save 10 of these at a time. All right? Next, add a couple variables at the top that will keep track of whether all files are valid and store the name of any invalid files. So let's add this. We're getting the green squigglies because they are variables we defined but we're not yet using. All right. Following these variables, update the code to check whether the user has submitted any files. Check the first element of the files variable for a null. If it is null, they haven't submitted anything yet. Then check to make sure that the maximum that they've added has been 10 files. Well, that wasn't good. Here we go. Copy. Squigglies, no, they're not gone yet. This, I'm getting an error here, because again, goofy way that this does line breaks in here. Oops. Oopsie. All right. Now, there's going to be a lot of this in this chapter where sometimes I'm going to put the code in and then explain. Other times I'm going to explain as they do in the book and then put in the code. All right. Sorry if that does not work well with people. All right. Next, if at least one and fewer than 10 have been added, loop through all the files to check to see that they are valid by using the code that's shown below. If any of the files are not valid, the variable allValid is set to false, and the name of the file is appended to the string called invalid files. If all the files are valid, meaning the string will be empty, then loop through the files and save each one to disk. If they are not all valid, add an error to the model state, including the name, etc. of the files as shown. Okay, there's if the file length is 10, because we didn't put anything in there before. Let's see. Let's just do this. Again, we keep getting these errors because of line break considerations. Okay, so finish that for each. We need this else in here that should line up with the if. There is the if. There is that else. Again, same kind of error we talked about before. Looks like we need one more here, right? If there were no errors added to the model state, the final section of code attempts to add each file to the database. First, add the following code under the model is valid right there. We're going to add 3 lines of code. If it does not contain any errors, and store if there were any errors, okay? The code contains a string for storing the name of any duplicate files. So we want to come in here. And add these 3 variables. Now, I have talked about this before, but I think it bears repeating. And that is, when you take a look back in here, there are 2 ways that you can code when you're using Boolean variables. You can assume that nothing is true and prove it when it is found true. Or you can assume that everything's true, prove it when it's false. Typically, since the default value for Boolean variables is false anyway, you do it the way the author has shown it here. So we've created these 3 variables, and as the author says, next the code should loop through the files and add each file to the database context and attempt to save them to the database. Note, we don't use any unnamed anonymous new product image in this code, because later in the chapter we need to refer back to the product image in the code that the code attempts to add. If any of the updates fail due to a database error, the error is caught as it is for a single file upload. If the error was caused by an entry already existing in the database, the name of the file is added to the duplicate file string, and the duplicates is set to true. Otherwise, the Boolean other DB error is set to true, indicating something other than that went wrong. The code is written so that even if saving a file to the database fails, the other files submitted will still be sent to the database. So we want to put in the rest of this code that's shown here. And that goes right here. Finally, if either of the 2 Booleans is set to true, an appropriate error message is added to the model state. When an attempt has been made to add a file that already exists in the database, the list of duplicate files is displayed to the user. All right, so right before we return this view, we want to come in here and put in that associated code, I guess. Again, I can't believe we keep. Let's see, duplicates. Isn't that what we call this? Duplicates. Says it's assigned, but it's never used. I think we may have one too many. Okay. Oops. All right, that fixed that. And I believe we don't need that anymore. So somewhere in here we are we are missing a right curly brace, or do we have one too many here? Not all code paths return a value. Yeah. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Goes with that if. That if is not closed yet. Okay, else. What does this if go with? This is just an unbelievably long routine, and it all right, so that's the end of this one. That was part of the problem. believe I've got everything done there. We'll find out. So there is a boatload of code in here, as you can see. All right, hopefully I haven't made any mistakes with where I have put my curly braces. After the large set of changes, let's go back. I'm on page 129. After the large set of changes to the controller, you'll be pleased to hear that updating the view is more straightforward. Update the Viewbag title so that it now reads Upload Product Images, and then upload the HTML file input in the Views Product Images upload.cshtml as shown. Well, I think this is the one right here. So we want to change that to upload product images. Save that. Then let's go to Views Product Images, the upload file. Views Images, that upload file. All right. Input type equal file. That's the submit button, so I don't want that. That's it down here. Input type equal file, name equal files, ID equal files, multiple equal multiple, which means I do want to allow multiples. All right. So the name and ID for the controller changed to files rather than file, and the entity or entry multiple equal multiple means that the control will allow the user to select multiple files at once. Also, update the action link So let's save this. In fact, let's do a save all here. So also update the action link in the views product images index.cshtml. So that it now reads upload new images. All right. Okay, let's save everything. We haven't built in a while, so let's build a solution. All right, let's run the program. we have errors. That's a warning. That's a warning. Okay, it says it does not exist, so I still have a problem with curly braces in here. That's what the error is. My guess is that one of these that's here has to go down at the bottom. I hate writing code like this. All right. Missing attribute name. Okay. All right, that fixed that. Not all paths return a value. Well, that isn't good. Doggone it. Well, I'm going to see if I can fix this. So for right now, rather than you watch me go around and look for these different things, and I'm at 27 minutes, so I'm going to stop this particular one that I'm working on right here, and I'll be back with trying to finish it up in just a couple minutes.